Hello, everybody. So I know I just did a poll, based on everything that's going on in the world right now. But we are having a full moon actually early this morning. I think it's occurring around 3 a.m. Pacific time. So this full moon is going to be a full lunar eclipse happening in the sign of Virgo. And we're in this kind of eclipse portal. So the new moon was a solar eclipse, partial solar eclipse, and this is a full lunar eclipse. So, what does that mean? There's just a lot of kind of intense archetypal energy that is happening, a lot of, that's really what these astrological transits are, is it's these archetypes that are bumping up against one another and reflecting energies that are happening in the human sphere. And they play out or get expressed in many multiple ways. So eclipses, as you might imagine, are playing with light and shadow, being able to see into what's hidden or obscured and then illuminate it, bring it in to the light of conscious awareness. They also happen to represent the endings of certain chapters and the beginnings of new ones. The full moon itself is a kind of culmination point where energies over the month leading up to that full moon illumination, that energy is growing steadily along with the moon. We can track these cycles visually from the earth. When we look up in the sky, we can see if the moon is waxing or waning, and we can reflect on what we are feeling is going on inside of our bodies, what themes we're tracking in our day-to-day lives, in our relationships, in our experiences out in the world. And so, it's why I sort of like to use these markers to sort of check in with the cards, the tool that I like to go to in order to tap into this kind of intuitive sense of things is the tarot. It's the one that I've been using the longest. And it sort of acts like an anchor to help me orient and to make sense narratively around what these archetypal themes are doing and how they might be expressing. So I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to ask for insider guidance around anything that would be helpful for us to know at this particular time around this full moon eclipse, in regards to the intensity of things that are happening out in the world. And always, of course, my desire is to be helpful. These are offerings that I make, I mean, for myself too, but also for all of you. And so I just invite you to take what you like and leave the rest. So I'm going to just do my thing. I'm going to go silent. I'm going to concentrate while I shuffle, and I will be with you momentarily. I'm just going to say a prayer of these cards. Wow. Well, well. Well, it's definitely a strong visual. There are some powerful archetypal themes emerging here. And so, right out of the gate, we have these three major arcana cards that are really helping us to orient towards what positive forward motion we can make, what how we can rightly align with the highest good of ourselves and others, how we can align with our strongest moral compass that is symbiotic and life affirming. I mean, really, like the star is finding your divine place in the universe. It's clearing the channel of all limiting self-beliefs so you can be this clear conduit for spirit. And you can see that's really represented here in her nakedness. She has nothing to hide. She's transparent. She is allowing spirit, the waters of spirit, to flow through her and to be reallocated to all parts of life that need that nourishment, that need the water of life, the wellspring of soul. This is the energy of the star. And what spirit is saying here is that this can only happen. We can only be available for these higher energies to come through us and to feed the good things in life when we've torn down the structures that are built on a false foundation, right? The tower is really major upheaval. And it is essentially saying that, yes, there are things in life, structures, institutions, positions of power, they don't serve us anymore. That at one time maybe they were built on a more solid foundation, but in the interim, that foundation has become cracked and is now crumbling. And these structures must fall and must be cleared away so that we can build again, build something new, move forward with greater balance and equanimity and equality, right? Balancing lightness and dark, balancing passive and active principles, balancing the conscious and the unconscious mind. We can only do this. We can only move forward in a good way once we clear away the detritus. So I often associate the tower with Kali, and Kali is the goddess of creation and destruction. I mean, this is a very unsettling force. It is powerful. It destroys things. And, you know, unfortunately, it is messy, and that sort of destructive energy strikes, um you know, it's unfortunately, it looks like there's a lot of collateral damage that is happening in the midst of exposing these corrupt people and systems. And in order for them to fall, you know, the full extent of their crimes has to be known, and it's ugly and people are being hurt. And that, of course, is the devastating part of this archetype. And so our hope, you know, the message that comes through is that this is not for nothing, that the fall of the Roman Empire allows something better to be built in its place. I mean, you know, and of course, these cycles of time are large and repeating. So, you know, this is true of most systems, that things start out like you tear down the old corrupt system and you start to build something new, and it's built with divine intentions, and then over time it becomes corrupted and then has to fall again, right? So I think the thing to remember right now is to hold this destruction in a larger context and to focus our intentions to move forward in a good way, because really the chariot is about literal and figurative forward motion. And there's this element of the will that comes into play in the chariot. Like, what are we going to will into being on the ashes of the old way? What vision can we hold for society at large that it serves everyone? It isn't a pyramidal structure. It's you know, there's this beautiful balance here. We see this represented in the light and dark sphinxes, you know, and our friend, the chariot driver, who is driving this solid, you know, he's built something solid out of his will, a vehicle to carry him forward in this really, it's an equilateral kind of expression. And it comes through the force of his will, that by clearing away this, you know, the old ideas, the negative self-talk, the belief systems that have become corrupted, and moving forward with conviction based on a solid symbiotic expression, that this is how we are hopefully coming out of this time of the old ways falling. But make no mistake, it is mentally distressing. It's taking its toll on all of us. I think that this is easy to see. You know, I see clients for a living, and so many people just expressing this extreme heaviness right now, this sense of despair or distress, and some people even having a hard time naming it or placing it. And so I think this is very much up in the collective right now. You know, the Nine of Swords is that worry, fear, anxiety, trepidation that is unsettling. It keeps us up at night. It is mentally distraught. I mean, that's really what swords represent, is thoughts, ideas, communication. And so moving from the Nine of Swords to the Ten of Swords is actually, it's the right direction to move in. The Ten of Swords is the closing of a chapter, never to be returned to again. A time of great mental anguish comes to a close. It is the death of something that has been causing us great distress. And in this dying, this falling away of extreme mental oppression, we can see the light on the horizon. It's the dawn of a new day. This is what is being indicated here. And so, again, as we are considering how we wish to move forward, I think it's important for us to get a sense in our hearts, in our feeling bodies, about what it is that we wish to create. What is the tonal structure of our relationships, of our creative projects, of our financial systems, of the work that we do? What is the emotional tonal expression that we would like to convey in all those areas of life? So the way I describe the Seven of Cups, it's like sort of like it's vague. It's emotional vagary. It's this when we try to feel in to our desires, our wishes, it's hard to pinpoint. It's hard to see. And it may be because the things that we desire feel very far away or hard to manifest. It may be because we're trying to create something entirely new and we don't quite know what that looks and feels like. A lot of times this card comes up in readings when we're afraid we're not going to get what we want or we're going to lose what we have. And so it can also be this kind of murky sense of internal confusion, almost as a protective measure, right? Like the longing for something that feels out of reach and the threat of it not being delivered is so painful that it's easier to sort of not want it or not know that you want it, right? And yet, what we are being called to do is spend some time feeling into what a world might look like that was built on mutual aid, love and compassion, sensitive attunement, and understanding of oneself and others. The Six of Cups is like loving before you've ever had your heart broken. It's loving with an unguarded heart. It's like returning to a childlike state before you've been battered and bruised by life. One where you feel that you can easily be vulnerable, show yourself, be your authentic self, and be received by others in this warm and loving way. And that in doing that and expressing that out in the world, you invite others to both receive you and for you to receive them. This is like a beautiful card of healing, healing the wounds of the world that have largely gone into the corruption of these structures. Like how traumatized, how damaged does a heart have to be to have no consideration for the well-being of other people? I mean, I see it a lot, I know what trauma can do to a person, how disruptive it is to the heart and the mind. But I am also well aware that healing is possible. And this sort of collective healing must happen. We have to orient towards this. We have to hold each other up. We have to support each other as we move through these periods of dismantling, discombobulation, and real distress. This is not for the faint of heart, what is happening right now in the world. And so it is so important that we find clarity and kindness in our relationships with others. And then the final piece here, this is sort of an interesting one to come up. Pentacles really get associated with money, career, finance. But I like to be a little bit more broad in my analysis. They're earthbound. They're physical, tangible earth elements. And think about what that means for us. For all of us born on the earth, our very livelihoods come from the elements of this planet, from the minerals in the soil, from, the vegetation and the, life that feeds off of the vegetation and the microorganisms that live in the soil, and the water that we pull from, clear rivers and springs. Like, the earth is just this abundant, life-giving source for us. And how can we honor that? How can we contribute to all that this planet has to offer us? What unique gifts do we possess that we are being called to identify, invest in, and share with the world? How is it that what we have within ourselves can make the world a better place? And so that's really what the Nine of Pentacles is about, is that we can partake in this abundance, but we have to give back. And the good news is that it's what we have to give back is all going to be different depending on each individual person. Like, some people are creative, some people are, logic oriented. Some people have an affinity with permaculture, and other people are city planners and thinking about ways of, building communities around, community meeting spaces, and how we can eliminate the use of needing individual transportation, and investing in public transit, and what social structure. Like, again, like, each person is gonna have their specialty, their unique interest, and their skill set that facilitates bringing that into being. But the Nine of Pentacles is saying that when we can look within ourselves and identify what those gifts are that we possess, that by bringing them to the world, by contributing to this fertile and lush nature of the very earth that we live on, that we will be cared for, we will be fed, that this is fulfilling our life's purpose, to give back, to receive what we need and give back. This is the message. These are some of the things that Spirit is asking us to keep in mind, even as we're going through it. The old adage, when you're going through hell, keep going. All right, so I hope this was helpful. It definitely is reflecting some of the themes of a lunar eclipse. Stay conscious, stay aware, stay heart-centered, support one another. Things are heavy, and we can get through this together. All right, many blessings.